But let's go right now to my first guest, longtime friend, probably 25 years, the editor of Western Outdoor News in Northern California, our good friend, Bill Carr. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Seth. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Yesterday, I received my copy of Western Outdoor News, the February 21st edition, and in big, bold letters right on the cover, it says, Fish and Game Commissioner Sutton has to go. What's up?
Well, I think most of us have heard the news now, and of course, if we didn't hear it lately, we heard it a long time ago when Sutton was involved with the Marine Life Protection Act and closing off a lot of our coast to fishing while he was under the employ of some people who were definitely interested in closing off the coast to fishermen. Sutton has just been an anti-hunter, anti-fisherman from day one. Every time he's in the commission, he makes moves to close off more land for us, to have a more impact on our hunting and fishing rights. He's contended that he's a hunter and a fisherman, but I've never seen a photo, and I don't believe that he's ever hunted more than holding a gun out there in the field somewhere for a good cozy shot to make it look like he is a hunter. He's definitely an anti. There's no question about it. This most recent move where he was in a phone interview or a phone meeting with a number of other people, including set up actually by the Humane Society of the United States. He said quite...
No, let's stop right there real quick. The Humane Society of the United States is not looking after dogs in this situation. They're the biggest anti-gun, anti-hunting organization on feet.
Absolutely. They don't do anything for animals, domestic animals. All they do is line their own pockets and file lawsuits to try to stop legal and legitimate activities in the outdoors. That's their main purpose. That's what they do. They've gotten away pretty well, actually, by hiding behind the name Humane Society of the United States, because it's used interchangeably with real humane societies that actually do things for domestic animals.
That's right. Now, let's get you back on your topic there. He made some comments that really drew the ire of a lot of outdoorsmen.
Absolutely. They were talking about poaching. That was the main thing, poachers and what to do about poaching. And when they were discussing poaching and the impact that it has on the outdoors, Michael Sutton said quite clearly, I actually believe legal hunting that's not sustainable may be a more pervasive problem in California than poaching. That is astounding to everybody that the president of the Fish and Game Commission of California could come out clearly and say that he is against hunting, legitimate legal hunting that his own department has approved through recommendations of the California Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Well, what he did in that statement is say, technically, the Department of Fish and Wildlife is not doing their job, the scientists aren't doing their job, and there's non-sustainable hunting going on. He's also saying at the same time that the Fish and Game Commission that he is president of is not doing their job because they're the ones that make those changes and make the adjustments.
Absolutely. There can be no question about it. He came out immediately, as a matter of fact, so fast. I don't believe I've ever seen a recant come out quite so quickly as his recant, where he says, well, I just wanted to make it clear. I mean, there was that he supports fishing and hunting, legal fishing and hunting, but that's in direct contradiction to what he said in the statement. So he's having a very difficult time here trying to separate what he feels and what he wants to say to the different constituent groups that he's talking to.
No. He's having a real easy time doing that. He is pandering. He is telling them what he thinks they want to hear. And that's absolutely asinine. This man should be sitting up there making sure that the best decisions are made for hunting and fishing and outdoor recreation in California, and instead he's pushing his own personal agenda right up our arses.
Once again, he is doing that.
You haven't even got into the other situation because he's paid by the Audubon Society to boot.
Exactly. That's the second conflict of interest that he's faced since he's been there. The first one, of course, was the Marine Life Protection Act, and now this last one with the gun control, the lead ban in California, that he is receiving paychecks from the main sponsor of the ban the lead bill. I mean, it's insane. I don't care what kind of legal consideration they can come up with as far as arguing, but it's all right there in front of you in your face. There's no mistaking the fact that he's receiving paychecks for doing specific things in his position as Fish and Game Commissioner. We've had enough. He's got to go.
Well, it says here, I actually believe legal hunting that's not sustainable may be a more pervasive problem in California. And he said this to HSUS on a big web conference, and then just a couple of days later, and I knew there was a retraction going because I was getting phone calls. I even called some agencies and a couple of politicians and was told, sit back, there's a letter coming out right away. And this is what he said in his retraction. I fully support legal, well-regulated, science-based hunting in California. Well, that's what he's telling the president of the the executive director of the Fish and Game Commission. Is he apologizing to the commission? Is he apologizing to the department for saying those things? How about you just straightening out everybody on the webinar at the HSUS webinar? How are you going to communicate your new stance, the one where you fully support legal, regulated, science-based hunting in California, where you told them that you didn't approve it and you knew there were problems? This is baloney. You're talking out both sides of your mouth, Sutton. You need to go. And I'm asking everybody out there, this guy is not helping you in the outdoors. It's time. But the problem here is he is only doing probably the governor's bidding and the Secretary of Resources bidding because they are doing what the policies of this administration are pushing through. Maybe he's part of that little divisiveness too. But that's just my opinion. I want to make sure I throw in there real quick.
Well, it's very true, and he's doing the same thing that Jennifer Fearing of the Humane Society of the United States here in California does. And that's when you're talking to her, she says, oh, I support hunting. I support legal hunting. I don't think anybody's ever pinned her down and said, okay, Jennifer Fearing, what kind of hunting do you actually approve of? It's all doublespeak, and it's all pandering. But unfortunately, it's had such a huge impact on sportsmen and sportswomen in California, both fishing and hunting, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse if we don't nip this right in the bud and get rid of this piece of rotten fruit.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's one of those low-lying fruits that needs to be plucked. It's an easy one. There has been controversy about him since the time he went in, about whether he would vote or recluse himself from voting on certain issues. Oh, yeah, if it's just related, I'll step out of it. He hasn't stepped out of squat.
Heck no, he's getting paid to squash these things. There's no question about it. The only way, and you're absolutely right, I mean, he has so far been doing the bidding of particular people within the California governmental organizations, including Jerry Brown. And the only way we're going to get him out is by going directly to Jerry Brown and telling him we want this guy out. We have to make a political turmoil that is going to make Jerry Brown feel so uncomfortable that he actually does it.
Well, I'd just like to know from Mr. Sutton which one he really feels about. I've got two statements that he's made. Now, how does he really feel? How does he feel about telling all the sportsmen out there how he really feels? But if you do, I want you to make sure, Mr. Sutton, you tell everybody on that webinar at HSUS put together for you how you really feel too. And the interesting thing is, the last line on his letter that was sent to Sankey Mastrip, the executive director of the Fish and Game Commission, says, I apologize for the confusion and hope this letter serves to forestall any misinterpretations of my position on hunting. No, we fully understand you have two of them, Mr. Sutton. You are welcome to circulate this to anyone who may inquire. So HSUS would have to inquire before they heard his thing. I really feel that this letter should be going out to HSUS and everybody that was in attendance at that webinar if he wants to make things right.
Which was the California Department of Fish and Wildlife and the federal agencies, too. So, yeah, there were a lot of people involved in that, and that statement was just unbelievable that he could say it in the first place, and I'm sure it rattled a lot of doors and ears with the people that were listening at the time. It
rattled doors in Sacramento, trust me, in the biggest wood, metal, and stone buildings around, trust me.
We have a pervasive problem right now in the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and that pervasive problem is stepping away from science and proven ways of managing wildlife and bringing all of these cuddly. I mean, tell me, what business does Project Coyote, which is Save the Poor Coyote, have sitting on the wildlife board for the Fish and Game Commission to determine how best to handle coyotes in California? What right do they have there? They're not scientists, they're not biologists, and it's headed up by Humane Society of the United States too, that one committee on predators. I mean, these people have no right even talking to the Fish and Wildlife. They have no science, no background, absolutely no knowledge.
They have an opinion, and they get to share it. That's the way it works, apparently. But I just want to see that Mr. Sutton's perspective is communicated to everyone, not to Sankey and not to those that inquire, but so that everyone understands his new perspective on hunting, how important it is. It's just not right. When you're talking out both sides of your mouth, that means you're lying to half the people half the time.
Absolutely.
Bill, good article. I'm sure this will fire people up. I hope that they will take initiative. I hope organizations will take the initiative too. And I would like to send everybody over to the latest edition of Western Outdoor News, an outstanding article written in there that's very informative about this. You'll appreciate it. And Bill, I appreciate you bringing it to the attention of California Sportsmen.
One more thing, if I could, Seth. That's Anthony Canellis for Cal Gun Laws wrote a really interesting piece all about Sutton called A Tangled Web. It goes back to Sutton and his initial working with everybody down there and loans that he got to buy his house from Monterey Bay Aquarium. It goes on and details how bad this person is, how bought this person is, and that's a tangled web. Go to Cal Gun Laws online, and you can read it by Anthony Canellis. It's an amazing story. I hope we had room in next week's issue to print it. We're going to try and get that out to the public, too. It's very revealing about how bad this man is.
Well, I appreciate your input and your opinion on it, Bill. Thank you very much for joining us today. And, folks, I again urge you to take a look at the latest edition of Western Outdoor News. Take care, my friend, and thanks for the update.
Have a great day, Joe. Bye-bye.
Count on it.